Okay, so now we're gonna do feet and straps classically. Classically, the foot bar is down. However, when I teach feet and straps, I always have the foot bar up. It's easier for the clients to get in and out of the straps. It's not as awkward. They don't have to look for the foot bar, especially if they're newer clients. Also, the headrest can be up. However, you have to remember to bring it down before you go into short spine. Now, I keep my ropes at the classical length. It's a little bit longer. And a lot of studios actually keep their ropes shorter. That's totally fine. You just might have to adjust the spring tension. I'm taking a look at these ropes and they actually aren't quite right, so I'm gonna fix those. My biggest pet peeve is when my straps are not even, so I'm just giving that just a little bit a fix. All right, so let's talk about the springs. I use one heavy, one medium, and on this Balanced Body Reformer, my heavy is a green and my medium is a red. Again, if you keep your ropes shorter, you might want to use a lighter spring tension. Also, I'm going to be putting my feet into the shorter loops. Classically, I was taught that the shorter loops are for your legs, the longer loops are for your arms. So, anyways, let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to roll all the way back. This is one of my very favorite series. I'm going to go ahead. So do you see when the foot bar is up? It's easy for me to it's much easier for me to bring my feet into those straps. So I'm going to bring my feet into the short loops. If you keep your rope shorter, you might want to use the longer loops. It's up to you. Hands are down by my side. The first thing I want to do is I want to make sure my tailbone is heavy. I don't want the springs to be lifting my hips off of the reformer. So firmly plant that tailbone down into the carriage. All right, shoulders are down. I'm reaching those fingertips long. My ribs are connected. I'm going to inhale, lower the legs down. Now I only go as far as I can maintain this rib connection. Once I start to open those ribs and lift the low back, then I've gone too far. Everyone's going to have a different range of motion or movement, and then coming right back up. I'm going to inhale as I lower my legs down, filling my lungs with air. Exhale, I'm going to contract that core, keeping the tailbone heavy. My feet are going to come right back up. The inseams of my legs are touching, and then exhale back up. This is a simple movement, so it's a great opportunity to talk about the breath, how you inhale through your nose, exhaling either out the back of your throat to contract that core. I like to breathe out the back of my throat. I feel like I can contract the core a little bit more. I know it is also very popular to breathe out of the lips, like that. That works too. Do what works best for you as a teacher, something that you identify with more, and that's the cue that you probably want to go with. Like that. All right, so we're going to go ahead and go into some circles. So I'm going to lower down in parallel. I'm going to rotate from my hips to turn the toes out. So the rotation externally happens from the hips, and then I'm going to create a giant circle all the way back around to the starting point. Check in with those hips, make sure those hips are not lifting. I'm going to inhale, lower down, rotate from the hips, and then exhale, circle it around. Now, I know a lot of programs are really picky on not letting you go very wide, but if your client can maintain the stability in their hips, they can go as wide as they want, as long as they can stay nice and stable right here. One thing to look for: when you see your client kind of like shimmying in their hips like that, woo, like that, then perhaps they've gone too far. Then that's a good indication to you that maybe the range of movement is just too big. So encourage them to make it a little bit smaller. And once they get that control down, then give them the opportunity to go a little bit wider. This is one of those exercises that got me hooked on Pilates. I used to have very, very tight hamstrings and glutes, and it was Pilates and feet and straps right here like this that really helped open up those hamstrings and glutes. Now we're gonna reverse. We're gonna take a great big inhale as we draw the thighs together all the way in, then feet come back to neutral and they come back up. Great big inhale as you open, keeping those hips down. Drawing those thighs together, starting at the top of the inseam all the way to the ankles. Feet come back to neutral, and then they go back up. Same rules apply. Keep the range of movement as wide as you want, as long as they can control the hips. We'll do one more right here. There's really no need to over talk this movement. All right, so now we're gonna go into frogs. Heels are together, toes are apart. Now, before you start, you want to aggressively squeeze those heels together. The second that I do that, I start to feel those inner thighs engage, and also I'm able to start to lift from the pelvic floor with that inner thigh engagement. I'm gonna inhale, lengthen the legs long, and then exhale, squeeze the heels even tighter as you come back in. Now, a lot of people are gonna ask, when they lengthen their legs long, their heels no longer touch. Well, then you don't have to go all the way out if you don't want to. So I'm knock-kneed a little bit, so if I straighten my legs all the way, my heels do separate. So I only go to the point where I can no longer keep them together. So that's where I stop right there. You're gonna see with the newer clients in particular, when they do feet and straps, they kind of shimmy like this. And it's because one leg is stronger than the other. But if you use the cue to really squeeze those heels together evenly, the legs are gonna work a little bit more evenly themselves. Does that make sense? I hope. So inhale, as I lengthen, I'm lifting from that pelvic floor. I'm lifting away from my ankles, and then I'm resisting the heels coming back in. So it's not just a push. I'm lifting away as I squeeze. That's gonna start to teach the movement, how movement starts from the core. It's not just about the legs. So I lift away, and then I resist it closing. Let's do one more. A lot of times when I teach this, I also like to come halfway in and do tiny little pulses for 10. Typically when I teach feet and straps, I do reps of 6 to 10. Keep in mind, I have long legs. So I may only get 8 reps in, while some people will get 10 reps in who are shorter than me. So keep in mind, some people will move faster depending on their leg length. All right, so tiny little pulses. It's really nice. In a fitness-based class, people do like to feel that a little bit of a burn, but also, it's also squeezing those heels together is also starting to teach those legs to work together. All right, now let's lengthen it long, and we're gonna go into the inner thigh pull. So I'm gonna open out to the side. Now I'm going to start the top of the inner thigh, and I'm going to zip the inseams of my legs together. Inhale as we open. Exhale, lift from the pelvic floor and zip. Inhale as you open. Exhale, start at the top of the inner thigh and zip. Both legs are working evenly. Definitely starting to feel that inner thigh warm up a bit. Last one here. Another fun variation that I like to do, tiny little circles. Small circles the size of a plate or a dinner plate. And I do about 8 each direction. And I'm keeping in tune, making sure that my ribs are not opening, everything is connected, my tailbone is heavy. And then I reverse for 8. Nice small circles. The carriage is only moving about an inch out, inch in. And then let's come all the way back in. Now, let's go ahead and go into short spine. So you wanna make sure you lower that headrest down. All right, whenever you come up onto your shoulders or you lift into a bridge, you always wanna make sure that that headrest is down. All right, so from here, I'm gonna inhale, lengthen the legs long, out to about a 45-degree angle. I'm gonna fold at my hips. Now from here, I press into my arms, scoop the abdominals to come all the way up. Now I'm gonna maintain the lift as I bend my knees, bringing my knees right over my shoulders. And then start at the top of my spine, I'm gonna roll down one bone at a time, lengthening those legs. Once the hips come down, I reset and start over.